Our journey begins on an old map, where the first clue already feels larger than life. Before we see any giant, the story starts with distance, mystery, and scale. 6 points on the map mark 6 monuments that still feel unreal today. Even as a shadow, the first giant already looks impossible. Stone, bronze, jungle, desert, and fire all belong to the same story. Some of these giants first appear as silhouettes against the sea. Others survive only as fragments, but even those fragments are overwhelming. In the mountains, faith and landscape fuse into one monument. And in the modern world, some giants are still born inside factories. These are 6 statues so massive they still challenge belief. Tuk-tuks roll through a colorful old street. Pedestrians and vendors crowd beneath pastel balconies. Palms sway as the road opens toward the coast. At first, there is only a distant glimpse of a giant seaside statue. The frame tilts from shop signs up to temple spires. Pilgrims step through a monumental gate. Incense smoke drifts in warm afternoon light. Stone stairway leads toward the giant figure. Low angle reveals the statue's feet and pedestal. The view climbs the body to the face. Surf crashes against rocks below the platform. A wide view shows the statue dominating sea and town. Gulls cross the frame as tourists look tiny below. Sunlight hits painted details and weathered edges. Prayer flags and bells move in ocean wind. Aerial orbit shows roads wrapping around the monument. Now we see hands touching carved stone for scale. Old black and white construction image appears. Cranes lift early sections during the build. Workers climb scaffolding around the rising form. Concrete and steel skeleton fills the frame. Finished statue returns in bright modern daylight. Boats pass the monument offshore. Sunset turns the face amber and gold. Night lights outline the giant's silhouette. In the final wide shot, believers gather beneath the statue. The map line pulls away toward the Mediterranean. The next giant belongs to legend as much as to history. Ancient harbor illustration fades into modern sea. Bright water glitters around a dry, rocky coast. The view follows a path towards scattered ruins. A giant fallen bronze head appears in the scrub. A close look reveals the empty eye socket. Cracked curls and oxidized metal catch the sun. The scale makes the head look mountain-sized. The narrator compares the scale to nearby people. Old ships glide through a reconstructed harbor vision. 2 stone piers frame the imagined giant. Bronze legs tower above sails in the fantasy shot. Map and sketch overlays explain the legend. We return to the fallen face in harsh daylight. Lizards dart through weeds around the chin. Hand brushes dust off a corroded bronze cheek. Aerial pullback shows sea, cliffs, and fragments. Storm clouds gather over the empty coast. Waves slam the rocks as history turns uncertain. Scroll illustration shows workers casting bronze plates. Hammering hands shape giant curved sections. Rivets and beams suggest impossible ancient engineering. Modern 3D overlay rebuilds the statue upright. Shadow of the imagined figure stretches over water. Fishing boats cross where the legend once stood. Sunset returns to the broken head. A close-up reveals silent lips and windblown grass. The map line leaves the coast for mountain Asia. From sunburned coastlines, the story moves into mist and thunder. Monk stands above a roaring river. Fog rolls across dark, mossy stone. The camera tracks a narrow cliffside footpath. Prayer cloth flickers in wet wind. Then the full reveal appears. A giant seated cliff monument. Waterfall mist veils the massive face. Low angle shows knees, hands, and carved folds. Birds cross the monument against pale sky. Monk looks tiny against the statue and cliff. River Whitewater pounds below the site. Carved stairs climb beside dripping stone walls. Pilgrims pass incense and butter lamps. Candlelight flickers across old painted details. Rain darkens the rock around the monument. The narrator explains how the mountain itself became a pedestal. A close look reveals worn fingers and water stains. Crane-like overhead shot reveals the full gorge. Clouds swallow the upper head for a moment. Archival drawing imagines earlier centuries. Stone carvers strike the first outline into cliff. Ropes and wooden platforms hang over the abyss. Chisels chip away in rhythmic bursts. Modern monks sweep wet steps before dawn. Incense curls around small visitor offerings. Sun briefly breaks through fog onto the face. In the final wide shot, the statue, river, and forest merge into one view. Mapline slides toward a modern mega-build. Now the impossible shifts from myth to modern engineering. Furnaces glow inside a cavernous workshop. Molten metal pours through channels. Huge copper sections lie across black frames. Welders stitch seams along a giant face. Crane hooks tighten over a statue torso. Sparks spray across polished bronze surfaces. Workers in helmets look tiny beside the pieces. The camera glides over rows of unfinished heads. Steam rises under bright overhead lamps. Blueprint overlay labels impossible dimensions. Trucks haul sections across open roads. Convoy turns toward a distant hillside. Giant hand section arrives at the assembly base. Cranes lift the piece into place. Workers bolt panels from hanging platforms. In time-lapse, layers stacking higher. The narrator explains the race for height and scale. A close-up shows reflective copper skin. Welding torches flare under the chin. The final facial section moves through smoke. Dawn reveals the monument nearly complete. Visitors gather at the base as cranes retreat. Giant stairs and terraces extend outward. Aerial shot circles the finished monument. Sun ignites the statue's surface at golden hour. Archival comparison shows the build from first beam to final form. Mapline cuts toward a blazing desert horizon. From steel and fire, we move into a landscape of dust and silence. Heat shimmer rolls over a long desert road. Tiny buses move toward a distant monument. A colossal seated figure rises from dust. Low-angle frames immense feet against the sky. Wind pushes sand across carved steps. Tourists climb slowly for scale. The camera studies weathered stone folds. Profile shot turns the face into a horizon line. Drums and chanting echo across open air. Banners whip in dry wind around the base. Aerial pullback reveals symmetry of the whole site. A close-up captures cracked surface and repair seams. Chisel marks catch warm sidelight. The narrator explains how mass and faith became architecture. Archival mural shows the monument in its earliest form. Craftsmen drag stone blocks into position. Ropes strain while teams haul weight uphill. Sun arcs from noon to sunset over the face. Long shadows stretch from the knees across the plaza. Lanterns glow along the steps at dusk. Night shot turns the head into a black outline. Dawn returns with pink light on the shoulders. Extreme close-up follows triangles and seams across the surface. Drone reveals the monument aligned with the landscape. The crowd makes the scale feel human again. Mapline dives into humid green jungle. The last giant waits where the jungle almost erased it. Birds scatter over a misty canopy. The camera pushes through roots and hanging leaves. Broken stone fragments emerge from fog. A colossal overgrown face appears between branches. Rainwater runs down cracked features. Roots wrap around a fallen arm section. Insects and drifting pollen fill the humid air. A close look reveals moss inside carved lines. Wide frame shows trees swallowing the monument. The narrator describes how nature almost hid the giant completely. Excavation brushes clear part of a buried relief. Archaeologists lift debris by hand. Old sketch overlays match the rediscovered shape. Sunlight pierces the canopy onto one stone eye. Monsoon rain turns steps into streams. Drone circles above ruins and green horizon. The final reveal shows the whole site breathing with mist. Seen together, these monuments feel less like buildings and more like separate worlds. Sea, bronze, river, sparks, desert, and vines intercut. Map redraws the journey with 6 glowing points. That is what makes these statues unforgettable. They overwhelm both distance and imagination. We return to the tropical statue at sunset. We return to the fallen bronze head in wind. We return to the mountain monument in fog. We return to the foundry giant completed on the hill. We return to the desert colossus under stars. We return to the jungle ruin under morning mist. Against the human body, every one of these giants becomes hard to process. When the journey closes, the map finally looks smaller than the monuments it traced. Even at the end, one last silhouette is enough to feel impossible again. And that is why these 6 giants are still difficult to believe today.